So now let's move in the events in Europe. I'm going to go back now and look back over some of these things in a chronological order, in a sense, through this year. So let's go back and first of all show that Russia is already allying itself with and taking control of the Eastern European area. This is where we're going first. Let's see if that's not so. Come back with me quite some time, a year and a bit. And Russia, who's already attacking Ukraine, has now put another 55,000 troops on its border, preparing for war. And then Greece, who's had economic problems, gone to the EU for help, is now really getting into the same situation and is now looking for more financial assistance. Now Greece is back in debt crisis, so to speak. And the Eurozone says, well, we helped you once and you didn't do anything about it. You didn't follow our advice. So why should we help you again? But somebody's at the door, knocking. And here's thin Mrs. Greece. She's having troubles financially, isn't she? And so the result is, here he is, I'll help you. Russia. Putin meeting up with the Prime Minister of Greece. And so they put it to the people somewhat. What do you think? They did a Gallup poll. Greece would choose Russia as an ally over NATO. Look at that. So the situation's changing there. But it's not only there. I haven't time to look at all the countries. But all those ones coloured in are flipping. They're beginning to align themselves more with Russia because of their fear. Look, here's Hungary. Their new Prime Minister. Russia is not a threat, says he. Russia should not be perceived as a threat to Hungary. Hungary is seeking closer ties with Moscow. Little wonder. They're afraid. Remember, nobody would spend over 2% a little while ago. Armaments are well behind what it should be. And here's America saying, well, should we help you? And so let's come back to Kaliningrad. Tensions rise surrounding Russian exclave of Kaliningrad amid build-up of military forces. So this was bumping up last year. Now it's growing more. And the chief of NATO said, I can take all of those countries, Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania. Russia could take all of them in 36 to 60 hours. I showed you that last year. But it's still very true. Very true. And those countries are very fearful. As I pointed out before, that country down there has also printed another book telling everybody what to do, like Sweden is now talking about doing. And it's done a second copy to everybody there. And here, Poland. Russia is not a threat. It is a threat to all of Europe. And so she's terrified. She said, we've got to have American troops here to prevent a Russian attack. So guess what? In they came. British troops from NATO, the biggest show of force against Moscow since the Cold War. Yeah, Britain came over to help them dramatically. Guess how many soldiers they sent over? 120. Biggest since the Cold War. A lot of good that'll be against the million-odd Russians. And then America responds. 1,100 soldiers. Okay? Deployed in Poland to deter a possible Russian attack. The leader of Estonia said, listen, that's just not enough. They sent troops into him. They said, well, look, we'll control the airports. We will control the airports. And then we can land stuff in within 2 days. Leader of Estonia said, our capital city will fall in 4 hours. It's a highway between us and Russia. And they'll have their tanks in our capital city in 4 hours. Too late. Too late. So here's Europe in terror, and particularly Eastern Europe, who's all beginning to look like it'll give up in a blink or capitulate. But now let's come over to Western Europe. What's going on there? Oh, Russia's intimidating them. Remember those missiles that we talked about a few minutes ago going into Kaliningrad? Well, in Russia there's a few other ones. Here's one. This is called the Satan II missile. There it is. It weighs about 100 tonnes, pretty powerful. And not only that, it has 12 warheads on it. Hydrogen bombs. Now Russia has hydrogen bombs, quite good hydrogen bombs. Here's one. The biggest bomb in world history. It has the explosive power equal to 10 times the entire combined firepower of World War II. And there's 12 of those warheads on the top. And there's several of these missiles facing Europe. Wouldn't you be in terror? And they reckon one of those missiles, Russia says, could take out the whole of France. One of them. So the situation looking very frightening. There's the missile scene. But now here's the military scene. Russia's biggest war game in Europe, says The Economist. What happened was, in August the 10th, The Economist wrote this up, saying this huge war game is going to go on the borders of Europe up here. Along the border between Belarus and Poland particularly. They reckon, Russia said, we're bringing only 12,700 soldiers in there. Only 12,700 soldiers. But The Economist made a few inquiries and found out they had enlisted or got control for the purpose of moving their military in 4,000 railway carriages to take the troops in. On the basis of their calculation, 100,000 went in. And it appears to be true. Appears to be true. Instead of the 12,000, Economist says 100,000. And so here, September the 10th to the 22nd was one of the largest Russian manoeuvres ever seen. World War III fears, says the British paper. Fears as Russian troops won't leave after war games on Europe's border. And that was their headlines. Won't leave. Warsaw and NATO on high alert as Zapad, and Zapad means Western 2017 manoeuvres took place. And what took place? That's what happened. Into that area came the 100,000 troops plus equipment. And now they're saying they're still there in all those various places. Already there were many up in that area as we poured out before, but now throughout this area. Russia left their troops in Belarus, Reuters. Not a light reporter. Russia has left troops behind after staging war games in Belarus. They lied. They didn't tell the truth. They now got them on the borders of Europe. So here's the scene. Here's the scene. Estonia. They reckon their capital city will fall in 4 hours. Lithuania, written 2 books on what to do when Russia takes over. Told everybody to dig in their garden, put a little room down there, put enough food for a year's supply, and if you take medicine, get 2 years and put it down there, because when Russia comes, you won't be able to get it. Time is running out, they're saying. Be prepared. They've got road routes, how you could get out if you wanted to possibly get out through here into Poland. And it's only a 40-kilometre little stretch there. It's pretty risky. Russia could easily cut that in a moment. Or if you've got a yacht, you can sail out through here, and here are the bearings. They're telling everybody what to do. But I don't know if I'd like to go out into that ocean here on my yacht, because during the manoeuvre, this happened. Russia launched a massive armada for the latest Baltic Sea drills to check combat readiness. 70 naval vessels came in just before the Zapad manoeuvre. It was followed by another 40. They weren't all naval vessels. Some of them were freighters with supplies on board. 70 vessels to combat readiness drills in the waters of Northern Europe came in, and many of them are still in the area of Kaliningrad, in the port. So the thing is frightening scene. They're right on the starting gun, so to speak, ready to go at a moment's notice. And Russia, for some years now, has been building up to attack America over the North Pole, the shortest route. Missiles and aircraft and such like to come in across Alaska into USA if necessary. The scene is indeed quite frightening. We don't hear about that over here, but in Europe they do. And little wonder many of them are very concerned as to where things are going. Now, I've used this cartoon before, but the point is still there. Here's the NATO countries and the Baltic countries. What have they got? They've got a paper protection. NATO, it's only like a piece of card. Warning, protected by NATO. And NATO's falling apart. NATO allies has put 4 battalions on the eastern border with Russia. Number 31,500. Did that a year ago. But Russia's potentially got more than that, 3 million odd soldiers that could face them. So the scene is really, really quite frightening. But then to see this, as we said before, here's Mrs. Merkel, and she met up with Trump, and Trump said, you got to pay more? And Merkel versus Trump. German leader warns Europe can no longer rely on Donald Trump. Europe can no longer rely on America. And there's good reasons for that as far as America's concerned. They won't pay the money. America's got economic problems. We need the assistance. You need to be helping too. Nothing's happening, or wasn't happening. More on that in a minute. So they're now realising America may not come over in the way they thought to defend them. So the election comes up, and Merkel almost totally loses. She gains only 33%. And the election results left her isolated, and it looks like she might just this month be able to get a coalition together. She has been trying for the last nearly 6 months, talking to the opposition parties to get together a coalition to rule Germany. Germany is in a fragile state. A very fragile state. And here's what some of the papers are sort of saying. Caught between America and Russia. Why Russia? Well, some of those parties want to align with Russia, not with America. And if she makes a deal with them, when the trouble comes, they'll probably just drop the bundle in a moment. So, take this party, for instance, has called for Germany to change its policy towards Russia. Others demand a common European home with Russia. The scene is changing. Merkel was strong, but it's gone. She's very weak now. And in France, a new man's come in, and he's looking at it slightly differently. What's he saying? We've got to get a European defence force together. America's not going to come. Britain's not going to come. We better start arming ourselves. We must have a joint European defence force. Strengthen the Eurozone. Deepen EU integration. Unite it. But the situation is, it's falling apart. Mid falling support. He's making a strong stand for it. And the result was, the EU countries agreed to create a European mega army. 23 countries integrate their defence force. But the situation, brethren and sisters, is this. Yes, they might unite. And what we might see, therefore, is Daniel's image standing, and instead of being united with Britain and America, Russia. The head. Russia. So here we are. 70 years ago, the EU was set up. But now, it's breaking up. And they're endeavouring to defend themselves, to integrate their defence. And Europe's policies are changing dramatically. Now this one is slightly off the course of what we talked about, but look at this. Things are altering. The spirit of Holocaust is stirring in Germany. Anti-Semitism is sweeping Germany. Now, it's not as big as in times past, but there is indeed very muchly a bit of that spirit in parts of Germany. Well, we can see the scene returning to the Second World War, but this time World War III. And not Europe and Germany opposing Russia, but Russia occupying Europe and Europe aligning itself with Russia, and the image standing up before our eyes. But brethren and sisters, for us, the critical question is when. Brethren and sisters, this is what we need to know. We don't have the answers for that, but we know that it's soon, and that's the important point of what we've looked at. Now, we read this in a sense. We looked at the Olivet prophecy in Mark 13. Let's look at Luke. You can turn it up if you like. Luke chapter 21 verse 25 says, "There shall be upon the earth distress of nations." Isn't that what we've heard tonight? Look at Britain. Look at Europe. With perplexity, no way out. Oh yes, they're forming a mega army. Is that going to solve it? Too late. Too late. Men's hearts failing for fear. Ask the leader of Estonia. 4 hours and we're gone. And for looking after those things which are coming on the earth. They can see the scene. Surely that's what we're seeing. But then he goes on to say, when these things, now look at that word there, begin. Has it begun, brethren and sisters? When these things begin to come to pass, then for us, look up, lift up your heads. We've got none of the morbid feelings that Europe has in its fear. Lift up your heads, for your redemption draweth nigh. It's just around the corner. How long have we got? Well, I want to look at, particularly for a minute, America. I haven't looked at it before, but in a funny way. Well, not a funny way, but in a different way. America is now totally distracted. What's bothering it is this: on the brink of war. Can it come to Europe's aid? I want you to answer this question as we look at some of these facts. So we bring things to a close ultimately. North Korea's situation more concerning than ever after the new tirade. And remember, we looked at the doomsday clock. And the closest to doomsday was 1953. That was the Korean War. And it's back on the list. That's where the doomsday clock sits. They are really afraid. And so the situation here is North Korea vows it can hit Guam and places like that. There are 4 missiles that take out the island. You know, we're ready for a little bit of war. We've got our soldiers together. And so things are moving on. Then they let off an H-bomb. People didn't expect that. Remember we looked at that H-bomb that Russia's got? Theirs wasn't just as big as that. Not as big as 10 times the explosive power that was dropped in the Second World War. No way at all. Theirs was only big enough that when they measured it in South Korea on the earthquake Richter scale, it came to that. 5.3 on the Richter scale. Hey, Christchurch was hit a few years ago with a 7.1. Huge damage. Adelaide was hit in 1953-54, if I recall correctly, with a 5.4, and every second house had damage in it. Not big damage, but damage in it. I can remember you could put your hand through the brick wall as a young child till it got repaired. That's the size. And it was felt in the next country. There's the bomb they've got. All right? And then they launch a missile. Here it is, North Korea missile launch. It's ICBM capable, intercontinental ballistic capable. It could travel at about 4,000 k vertically, but it could travel at least 10,000 k. It could go into orbit. The only problem is re-entering in. And it looks like they got it reasonably right. It didn't burn up. Vertically coming in, 14,000 kph will burn up. If they can get it down an angle of about 45 degrees, they can get it in at 7,000 kph and it won't burn up. And then we can hit. And they could hit Darwin. That's what they claimed. It could hit maybe much of Australia. In fact, it could go into orbit and hit anywhere. Crazy. America's scared. World War III, US Army prepares for North Korean invasion as nuclear row escalates. They're worried about it coming into South Korea. They're worried about problems taking place. And so here's Trump saying, we've got to prepare for this. We've got to get ourselves ready for it. Well, brethren and sisters, here's a time of perplexity. No way out. America's not going to come to Europe's aid. No way. Not while this threat is at the back door. I'll tell you a little other thing. Twice, very wisely, Trump has been to the UN and asked the United Nations to vote that nobody trades with North Korea. Twice he's done so. And he got everybody agreeing to buy nothing from them. Let them economically go destitute, except for two countries, Russia and China. Who's behind North Korea? Russia said, we'll buy anything you like. Why? Because it's debilitating America. America's not going to come to Europe's aid while this threat is at its back door. So, brethren and sisters, he comes suddenly, doesn't he? Remember Luke 21, or the quote that we've just looked at. Look what it says. Behold the fig tree. Israel came into existence when? This year, 70 years ago. 70 years, Psalm 90, verse 10, the period of a generation. Behold the fig tree and all the trees, when they now shoot forth, verily I say unto you, this generation, and that's many of us, shall not pass away before it's all fulfilled. We're living at that time, brethren and sisters. Here we are. Is it going to be this year? I don't know. I do hope so. But one thing's for sure, things have been speeding up, haven't they? Look at this week. Last week I couldn't tell you all about that financial situation. But Isaiah 60, the ESV version says, your people shall all be righteous. He's talking about the saints, the Jewish people in the kingdom age. They shall possess the land forever. Here we are, taste of the kingdom, isn't it? And I am Yahweh, and in its time I will hasten it. What does that mean? I'll speed it up. And my goodness, it looks that way now. I've never seen it like this, brethren and sisters. It's speeding up like we've never seen it before. Now, my appeal, brethren and sisters, we need to be watchful. Remember what we said before. Let it watch, let it move us, let it encourage us. Cause us to be people who want to turn to God with all our heart, soul and might. Be men of prayer, men of diligence, striving to do that which Christ wants and God wants. It's a repeated statement right through the Word of God. Watch is used in the Olivet prophecy. Matthew 4 times, Mark 4 times, Luke once. Paul also said, watch. 1 Thessalonians chapter 5, verse 6, we looked at it last time. And in Revelation 16, Christ's final warning for us, watch. Let us be people then, brethren and sisters, who are diligent in God's word, but allow what we see to enthuse us and encourage us to centre our attention on the things of God. That's the key point. Not so much the watching, yes, only the watching insofar as Christ knows and God knows. It will enthuse us to be focused on the things of God and the truth, and indeed preparing for thy kingdom come, and when thy will be done in earth as it is done in heaven.